Everybody is here in some format, so we'll call our meeting to order. As you'll note, Councillor Ostindi and Councillor Bilodeau are attending remotely today as they're representing Council at the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association event this week. So thank you for still joining in virtually. Emergency evacuation. If we should encounter an emergency, let's all exit the building. There's 2 sets of doors outside of the lobby here, and if for some reason those exits are not available, there is another exit behind Council here. The muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park, and if we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. So thank you. Next, I just want to let you know, before we begin, please note that this meeting is being recorded. The recording may include your image, voice, and any other personal information. This information is collected under the Protection of Privacy Act. If you have any questions about this, please contact the town's Access and Privacy Coordinator. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the land acknowledgement. Councillor Avanicki.
The town of Sylvan Lake respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands are the traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and travel routes for many nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Sauchout, and Nakuta Sioux. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and those who have gone before us. We acknowledge and thank all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into open microphone. Open microphone is an opportunity for a resident to express his or her feedback on an issue pertaining to the town. Open microphone is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes, and each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. After the presentation, members of council will only ask questions of clarification. You will not receive a response or feedback from council immediately after your presentation. Items that require a response will be brought forward at a future date. And I will note we did have 4 sign up in advance for open microphone. Typically we only allow 3, but I trust we'll all be efficient and we can get through that within our allotted time to ensure that everyone who came for that has the opportunity, if that is okay with council. So we'll start with Ms. Capper. Welcome. And if you can settle in, there's a round button right in the center. You'll just wait until the clock counts you down. You'll hear a number of beeps. Once the beeps finish, then we're happy to have you start with introductions and hear from you. Thank you.
Good. Mayor Hanson, Councillors Payne, Ostindi, Johannesson, Iwanicki, Bilodeau, and Mearns. My name is Lori Capper. My husband and I have been residents here of Sylvan Lake since July of 2021. I am here to respectfully request that land acknowledgements be discontinued for all town meetings and events. I also requested this on March 10th. Let's honor all history by not singling out a small percentage of our population. I recognize the contributions of my ancestors and the knowledge they shared with those that came after them. But I also recognize the contributions and things that were brought later, by later contributors. Sylvan Lake was settled by many heritages, and this fact does not diminish the fact that this is Treaty 6 and Métis Region 3. Our current life is a gift from all of these people. All the things around us are things created by everyone, not just one small group of people. To single out one group is unfair and dishonest. It is a social posturing that enforces a notion that natives require white acknowledgement. Natives are fully capable as anyone, and we do not need your affirmation. We should stop the land acknowledgements, thereby acknowledging all those that came before us. The only thing I would like to add to that, which is the same as the March 10th, is that if possible, all councillors and Mayor Hanson respond to me in writing as to why you believe, think, or feel that the land acknowledgement is an acceptable form of singling out a small percentage of our population. That's it. Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Ostindi,
Oh, Councillor Ostindi has a question. Yes, sorry.
just one question for Ms. Caper. Just interested in knowing if Ms. Caper is speaking on behalf of a Métis or First Nations association or as a private citizen.
No, I am speaking as a private Métis citizen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips and Ms. Reynolds, I'll also lean on you for some support. I am terrible at chairing a partially online meeting, so please don't let me forget about our online counselors. Nudge me if we need. Thank you for your presentation. Next, we'll move into Mr. Forbes. Welcome. And you saw how it was done. If you can settle in, you'll hear all of those same beeps, and press the button on the center of your microphone. After the beeps are done, we're happy to hear from you.
Hi. Oh, not a little too soon.
Just hang tight, otherwise they'll interrupt you. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Paul Forbes. I'm retired, live in Sylvan Lake. I've met a few of you, and for those that haven't met me, if you've seen me at a Gulls game, just forget you ever saw me there. We'll just forget all those experiences. But anyway, this is an item that I'm raising, but I know it's something that you can't resolve today or on this, but I'm hoping that it gets on the minutes, and then you can advise me how and if there's a way to proceed with it. I recently sent a letter to council with regards to the business licensing of Iron Wave Marine, and I believe most of you have that, and I don't know if there's a way that we can talk about it here today, or it'll be something that's addressed later, but I'll leave it up to council to advise me.
I do know we have very little information at this time, so we will have to loop back with you, but I know administration was in contact in the last couple of days with the business owner as well. So we're happy to get that back as soon as we're able to. Is there anything else we can help you with today? No, thank you. We will ensure we loop back as quickly as we can, certainly. Thank you. Council, any questions? Sorry, just want to make sure I don't miss that step. Thank you. All right, Ms. Grams, welcome. And once you settle in, you'll see the same countdown will start. If you can just press the round button in the center of your microphone when you're ready to speak, we're happy to hear from you.
Getting rid of land, hi everyone. Getting rid of land acknowledgements is considered detrimental because it erases the history of Indigenous stewardship, ignores ongoing colonial impacts, and removes a crucial, albeit
If I can just get you to pause and just cozy up to that microphone. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Albeit basic step towards reconciliation and respect for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. It eliminates a visible reminder that Inuit people are not merely figures of the past, but current inhabitants and partners. It erases Indigenous presence. It ignores ongoing, long-lasting relationships between Indigenous people and their traditional territories. It reverses reconciliation efforts. It removes a symbolic act of respect and public recognition of stolen lands and broken treaties. It hides ongoing colonialism. Land acknowledgements remind people that colonialism is not just history, but an ongoing process. It's loss of public education. It eliminates a moment of learning for the public about specific Indigenous land nations whose land they are on. And it's a symbolic disregard, even though some may feel that they have become performative. It completely removing them suggests that recognizing Indigenous sovereignty is not a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, same opportunity. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. And we do have one more on open microphone. I really appreciate everyone and your concise presentations to allow us to get through them all. Miss Carlson McNaughton. Or Jane's Walk Host of the Year. Welcome. You've seen the drill a couple of times now. Just wait for the beeps and then we're happy to hear from you.
Okay.
Just hit that one more time. You just turned yourself off. Just press one more time, the center button there. There you go.
There we are. Madam Mayor and council members, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you today. I'm representing the Sylvan Lake and District Archives Society as a board member. First of all, we'd like to express our appreciation for the support that council has provided to the Archive Society for just a little over 30 years. In your agenda today, coming up about halfway through, you'll have a report in your business items, pages 117 to 120. It's an archives request presented by Ms. Monique Calicott regarding a change in the funding method for the archives. This change is a request by the archives to take over payroll for its employee from the town. We were advised that this is the process that we do have to follow. This was not the first option that we wish to pursue. We would rather have continued as we have historically done. This is as follows. Archives has been the employer of its office manager beginning in 2013. This employee has actually only worked for us twice a week, 2 afternoons a week, for a total of 8 hours a day, or 8 hours a week rather. In February 2024, a second employee was hired to enable the archives to input its historical information into a database. Since 2013, HR with the town was performing payroll functions for us. This continued with an agreement with the town, which was opted into a core funding package approved by council in 2016. This core funding package also included IT support, operating costs, and payroll support through HR. You had already received a package a few weeks ago, an expanded version of all of this information. In your report today, it indicates that administration is recommending what will be impactful cuts to our IT support. We believe this warrants further discussion as it will actually affect joint town and archives projects as just one example. The archives was never made aware of changes to our employees' status until the spring of 2025. Now that both of our administrators left us for retirement and other job opportunities just this past December, we're left with some unanswered questions. Number one is, why did the archives administrators become town employees, and when did this happen? We were actually never informed. We have scoured minutes of meetings, and this is not showing up in any of the town's meeting minutes. Number two, is our only option to become employers of our office administrator or hand that function to the town? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Council, open it up for any questions. Seeing none, as you know, we do have that report on the agenda a little bit later this evening. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, Council, next we'll move into the adoption of the agenda. Ms. Phillips, do we have any additional items?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Requesting to add electronic attendance to the agenda. We're actually suggesting we could add the motion to the consent agenda for Councillor Iwanicki to attend virtually to the next Governance and Priorities meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Council, do we have any concerns with that? Great. Thank you very much. Would someone like to make a motion for the amended agenda? Councillor Mearns, quickest on the draw, but it was close.
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Excellent. Can I make an adjustment? I'm so sorry. I'm just looking at our meeting order tonight, and to me it makes sense to potentially move up item number I between D and E. We certainly want to go through those public hearings and the items attached to it, but the archives is that item. And rather than leaving that late in the agenda, would that be agreeable to everyone? It's not a change to the agenda, just the order. Councillor Mearns, is that okay with you? Great, thank you. Sorry, I should have caught that earlier. Wonderful. We've got that amended agenda motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. I actually do really appreciate, Councillor Ostindi, your thumbs up motion in this sense, because sometimes there's a slight delay, and it just lets me know for sure that it's not a delay and that you actually are in favor. So thank you for that. All right, next we will move along to the consent agenda. As a reminder, Council, consent agenda is an item used to increase meeting efficiency. Any item marked with an asterisk are ones recommended by administration to be added to the consent agenda, with the addition of the next meeting electronic attendance added to that. If you'd like any items removed, further discussion, extensive questions, anything like that, please do make that request now. So is there anything we'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, would someone like to put that motion forward? Councillor Iwanicki, thank you.
It's my job now, like I said. Yeah.
We just love the sound of your voice.
Perfect, it's soothing. So I'll start with the addition onto it. So this is the one that isn't in front of you guys, just so you're aware. That council approves electronic meeting attendance by Councillor Iwanicki for the meeting of April 21st, 2026 for the purpose of work demands. That the 2026-03-24 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That the 2026-04-07 governance and priority meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That council approve the walkway hazard inspection policy number E-003-005B as presented in report AIR 1356. And further, that policy E-003-005A is hereby rescinded. That council grant first reading of bylaw 1951/2026, the business licensing bylaw as requested in AIR 1377. That council grant first reading to bylaw 1950-2026, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 as requested in AIR 1379, and that council set May 12th, 2026 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers of the Municipal Government Building as the date, time, and place for the public hearing for bylaw 1950-2026. That council approve first reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1948-2026 as outlined in AIR 1362, that council give first reading to bylaw 1949-2026, establishing the 2026 property tax rates as outlined in AIR 1363, that council approve the portable communications device policy F-003-008A as presented in AIR 1367, that council rescind the portable communications device policy F-003-008 as outlined in AIR 1367.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll just make the note because we have some new faces in the gallery tonight. You heard a number of first readings be a part of that consent agenda, and just to explain that process, while council could pull something off for first reading, it's really not the time we typically get into incredibly extensive debate. First reading is just the approval of council to put it on the floor so that we can start talking about it. We can start to have conversations with residents, and we could move on to those next steps. So all of those items that are listed for first reading will come back at a future agenda, not as a part of the consent agenda, and that's when we'll have the opportunity for some more extensive questions and debate. Unless there was really something glaringly obvious, or council said, I don't want to even talk about that at all, but that was obviously not the case. There's a number presented within that motion. So we have Councillor Iwanicki's motion on the floor. I'll ask council any final questions, comments? Great. All those in favor? And opposed? And that was carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we will move into our public hearings and delegations. Just want to make Make sure I have these in the correct order. Very good. First, this public hearing, this is the amending bylaw. There we go. For number 1943-2026. This public hearing is being held pursuant to section 2031. The purpose of this hearing is for council to receive public input regarding the proposed amendment to the waste bylaw 1849-2021, Schedule A and Schedule B. The public hearing was advertised in the Sylvan Lake News on or about March 26, 2026 and April 2nd, 2026. I declare that this public hearing for the bylaw amendment number 1943-2026 is now open. The operations manager for Public Works will now provide background on the proposed bylaw amendment. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's public hearing is regarding bylaw number 1943-2026, which is amendment to the waste bylaw, which is necessary to provide for rate adjustments to various solid waste services, including recycling, garbage, and the tippage rate charged at the waste transfer site. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. The following procedures will be used for the hearing this afternoon. Presentations before council shall be brief and to the point, limited to 5 minutes. Those persons speaking will be given an opportunity to speak only once. The order for presentations will be as follows. First, those in support of the proposed amendment, then those opposed, then any other person deemed to be affected by the amendment who wishes to be heard, and finally, the operations manager, Mr. Watson, for Public Works. Council shall not cross-examine or allow cross-examination of any persons giving information, and it will not be necessary for anyone giving information to verify his or her qualifications. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and debating or questions from the floor will not be allowed. Please note that council will not accept any verbal or written submissions after the hearing has been deemed closed. The hearing is now open for those presentations that are in support of the proposed. And did we have any in writing that we'd like to receive?
There was none, Your Worship.
Excellent, thank you. So then we'll open it up to anyone who is in support of the bylaw amendment number 1943-2026. Please raise your hand. One more call, anyone else in support? Next, the hearing is now open for presentations opposed to the proposed bylaw amendment number 1943-2026. Is there anyone else here in opposition? And now we will open it to anyone else affected by the proposed bylaw. And one final call for anyone affected. Great. Council, I'm going to assume we don't have any questions on the presentations we just received. I'll now ask, is there any closing comments, Mr. Watson? I would assume not. Thank you. If there's no further questions from council, I hereby declare that this public hearing is closed. I remind participants that council will not receive written or verbal submissions after the hearing is closed. Next, we will do this one more time for public hearing bylaw 1945-2026, the water and sewage bylaw. The purpose of this hearing is for council to receive public input regarding proposed amendment to the water and sewage bylaw 1945-2026, Schedule D11, and an amendment to replace the current Schedule D11. The hearing was advertised on Sylvan Lake News on or about March 26th and April 2nd, 2026. I now declare the public hearing open. First, I'll invite the town administration to give us some background on the proposed changes. Welcome.
Thank you. Tonight's public hearing is for bylaw amendment 1945-2026. This bylaw amends Schedule D, Section 1, Subsection 1 of the Water and Sewage Bylaw 1805-2020, which is the rate summary that relates to the monthly water and sewage fixed rates, the water consumption rate, and the sewage collection rate. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will declare that the public hearing is now open. First of all, no, we've got that. Here's how tonight's hearing will work. Anyone who wants to speak will have up to 5 minutes. Each person will only speak once. We'll hear from people in this order. First those in support, then those opposed, then anyone else who feels affected. After that, administration will speak again if required. Council may ask questions after each presentation, but only for clarification, and there will be no cross-examining, debating, or questions from the audience. Once the hearing is closed, council cannot accept any more comments, written or verbal. Before we hear from anyone in attendance, I'll ask, are there any written comments that were sent in ahead of time?
No public comments were received.
Thank you. We'll now hear from anyone who is in attendance, who is in support of bylaw 1945-2026. One more call for anyone who's in support. Next, we'll hear from anyone who is in opposition of the bylaw. And one more call, anyone in opposition? Finally, is there anyone else here who feels they are affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? And last call. All right, Council, again, I don't see us having any questions, so I will declare that this public hearing is now closed. As a reminder, Council will not accept any more comments on this bylaw now that the hearing is closed. Thank you. All right, we can now move along to business item 7A, and this is the amending bylaw 1943-2026, the waste bylaw. Mr. Watson, welcome back.
Thank you. We are here tonight to request second and third reading to bylaw 1943-2026, which is an amendment to the waste bylaw to provide rate adjustments to recycling garbage and the tippage rate at the waste transfer site. The amendment proposes raising the monthly rate for curbside garbage collection, which includes the organic waste collection program, by 40 cents for any size cart. The increase is inflationary in nature and due to increased costs such as fuel and tippage, and would be the first rate increase since 2022. It also includes a decrease in the monthly rate for curbside recycling collection from $6.50 per month for a 240-liter cart and from $9.75 per month for a 360-liter cart to $4.50 per month for any size cart. These rate reductions are possible due to the revenue from the Extended Producer Responsibility Program, which pays the town $254,000 per year for providing the blue cart collection service. The rate decrease aligns with the recommendations of the Municipal Solid Waste Master Plan. When combining the rate increase to the garbage rate and the decrease to the recycling rate, residents who receive curbside services will realize a net savings of between $19.20 per year to $58.20 per year. Also included in the amendment is an increase to the monthly rate charged to commercial and industrial properties by 50 cents. This revenue helps fund the operation of the two recycling depots, since these entities are excluded from the Extended Producer Responsibility funding. This increase is also inflationary and is also the first rate increase since 2022. And lastly is a proposed increase to the tippage rate charged at the waste transfer site from $100 to $102 per ton for residents and $130 to $140 per ton for non-residents. And this too was last increased in 2022. The proposed bylaw was advertised on our webpage and the local newspaper, and as you heard, there were no public comments received, and therefore administration respectfully recommends that bylaw 1943-2026 receive second, followed by third reading of the bylaw as presented. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Council will start with any questions on the presentation. Great.
One question.
Oh, yes, Councillor Cindy.
Just a question of the number of people using the larger 360-liter black waste carts. Approximate number.
Under 100.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Payne.
I move that council grant second reading to bylaw number 1943-2026 as presented in report AIR 1348.
Excellent. We'll open it up for any debate and comment, council.
I think rarely are we voting on a bylaw that saves us money. So I think this is great. Good job.
Not just saves us money, but saves
everyone
residents money. It's
so it's great.
Nice to see. Councillor Cindy.
Thank you. The reason I asked that question is just to understand the impact, and it's pretty minor in terms of the number of people that use the larger carts, but this is more on a principle of making sure our rates reflect inflation over longer periods of time. You know, we're only talking 40 cents right now on the increase of a small cart, the 240-liter waste carts. However, someone who uses 50% more garbage, as we have it designed, basically pays 50% more for tippage. You know, it's roughly $20, and the larger cart pays roughly $30. So when we raise rates, we should make sure they get prorated as well. So if someone's asking to have, 50% more garbage handled, the rate should go up 50% more for them too. So if it's 40 cents for the average or typical person, that means it should be 60 cents for the larger cart. And so in, over 1 year, 20 cents, per month rather, it's really nothing. But if we always apply rate increases without matching exact percentages, we will slowly make it more expensive for the people producing less garbage and cheaper for those producing more garbage. So in my mind, although it's a small effect this year, to keep in the principle of polluter pay, we would have a 60-cent for the larger black cart, so that over time we always raise the rate correctly. And if someone else supported it, I would amend it too.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a spot on, and through the chair, that's a spot on comment. You're exactly right. It's a 40-cent increase regardless of the cart size, not based on percentage. It's exactly a correct comment. Thank you.
And question to my colleagues, is there any appetite to just making that a polluter pay fair equity amendment, and then just from this day forward always try and apply rates in that way?
Sure, I'll open that up for council feedback. Councillor Iwanicki.
If I'm doing the math right, then that would be $29.85 for a larger cart opposed to $29.40. I don't know if Councillor Estindi's looked at that, but I'd support evening out the increased percentage.
Any other comments, council? Councillor Payne, I saw eyes comments.
No, I just think that going forward, I agree with it in principle. I think the idea is the same, but I think the insignificance of the change right now is, the effort's probably worth more than the work itself. So I think keeping this in mind for further amendments in the future, I think it's probably appropriate, but right now I think this is, it's not significant enough for me to really feel it's that important.
Other thoughts, council?
Yeah, I would echo Councillor Payne's comments, and yeah, to refer to it, when it comes back again, but I'm fine with it the way it sits today, and to be able to go through and move through second and third reading.
I'll add, I'm also comfortable carrying on as is, but I do like the sentiment of that and ensuring we're capturing that. I know we will be seeing a number of amendments to this bylaw with some of the recommendations coming forward over the next couple of years. So I guess my question back to administration is, can that note be captured to ensure that it is something we're considered as we do the next amendment? Great. With that, unless you would formally like to put that on the floor, Councillor Stindy, you always have that option, and then we will formally vote on it. But I'm not seeing the numbers there.
I'm comfortable with numbers being correct in polluter pay equity in the future.
That's great. Perfect. I saw that noted, so thank you for that. Council, any additional comments or debate? Great. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Payne for second reading. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we've got a motion proposed for third reading. Would someone be interested in putting that forward? Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, I move that council grant third reading to bylaw number 1943-2026 as presented in report AIR 1348.
Great. We've got a final opportunity for comments, council. Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Next, we'll move along to the amending bylaw 1945-2026. Ms. Johnson, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening I'm speaking to a report AIR 1357 requesting second and third reading of amending bylaw 1945-2026. As council will recall, through report AIR 1340, first reading was granted on March 9th, 2026, and the proposed 2026 utility rates adjustments were presented at the time. The purpose of the report AIR 1357 is to amend Schedule D, Section 1, Subsection 1 of the Water and Sewage Bylaw to implement those rate adjustments. The public hearing was held earlier today, April 14th, 2026, as scheduled. Notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Sylvan Lake News on March 26th and April 2nd, 2026, in accordance with the legislative requirements. No submissions were received. Administration has not made any changes to the proposed rates since the first reading. The rates are driven by the same factors outlined in that first reading, and those being inflationary pressures, infrastructure replacement cycling costs, reserve contributions, and regional cost increases. As an example, the Regional Wastewater Commission rate has increased to $2.245 per meter cubed for 2026, which is a direct cost pressure. Again, the rates remain unchanged from the first reading. Water fixed charge at $45.23 per month. Water consumption at $1.01 per 1,000 liters of water. Wastewater fixed charge at $29.03. A wastewater collection rate of $3.21 per meter cubed. And a truck fill increase of approximately 4%. For a typical household in Sylvan Lake, that's about $6.10 for a household using 20 meters cubed a month, and average of about $73.20 a year. So these adjustments will generate approximately $688,000 annually, and it will continue to support our operations and capital projects and bring the utility capital reserve to approximately $3.28 million by the end of 2026. I wanted to highlight for council, especially some of the new members, what's behind these numbers. The infrastructure that we are responsible for is largely underground. It's aging and it's out of sight. Much of it was installed decades ago and is approaching or already beyond its life cycle points. When these assets fails, they don't fail gradually, they fail suddenly. Water main breaks, sewer backups, service disruptions, and emergency repairs at a premium cost. We've been able to manage this to date through some proactive maintenance programs, prioritizing capital upgrades, and of course building our utility reserves. But the reality is, if we don't continue to invest in a steady, predictable level, we shift from planned work to emergency reactive response. And of course there's higher costs, greater service interruptions, and less control of how and when we spend the money. These rate adjustments are not about expansion, they're about maintaining the service level for the community and avoiding larger, more disruptive costs in the future. So with that, council respectfully recommends that council grants, administration respectfully recommends that council grant second reading and first reading of bylaw 1945-2026 as presented in report AIR 1357. And with that, I'll open the floor to discussion.
Thank you. Council will start with any questions. Councillor Iwanicki.
Thanks for the report. I just had a question about the utility capital reserve.
Yes.
What are the impacts on that with the rate increase? Like, are we seeing a large increase into that capital reserve or relatively small?
Thank you for the question. Years ago, the utility reserve was in the red. And it is these small incremental adjustments that are helping us bring it back into the black and to a very feasible number that the town of Sylvan Lake, given its infrastructure, needs to see. So these rate adjustments will generate approximately $688,000 per year. Now that, of course, goes into the pool with the rest of the increase, or the rest of the utility rates. And by our calculations, at the end of 2026, we should see about $3.28 million. I hope that answered your question.
Close. Do you know how much of that is going directly into the capital reserve as a result of that $600,000 increase? I'm just curious. You might not off the top of your head, so.
Yeah, no, I do apologize. I couldn't break that down so much as, you know, we have our revenue generated, And then we take our operating cost, our capital project costs. What is left, in essence, at the end of the year goes into the budget as a line item, in essence, a reserve contribution.
Sure, Councillor Iwanicki.
But you do anticipate that it'll help top it up a little bit at the end? Because I know our reserves are something that circles around here a lot about things that we're concerned about, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Every dollar does count towards that, for sure.
Great. Any additional questions, Council? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Payne, you're hot on the motions today.
Well, someone's got to do it. I move that council grants second reading to amending bylaw number 1945-2026 as presented in AIR 1357.
Excellent. Yes.
I also just want to echo some of what Councillor Iwanicki had said. I think one of the issues, and I feel like a dark cloud every time I bring this up, but I feel like at some point we're going to be in a situation, much like Calgary, where we have a failing infrastructure that's going to cost us an enormous amount of money, and not having these reserves in a healthy situation puts us in an awful borrowing situation if we end up in a space like that. So I think if you look at the increase of the rates, it still puts us lower than most of the municipalities around us. So we're in a very healthy position that's not overtaxing or over proving people to have to overextend. So I think this is a very wise thing to do, and wise to build that reserve. And again, to echo what Monique had said, what goes into the reserve is what's left over after operations are done, after capital projects are done, then whatever's left goes into the reserve. So it's not to say that, you know, all 688,000 goes into a reserve, but the more we can do to increase these reserves, and really a reserve should be looked at as, you know, a saving for a rainy day. But in this situation, it's not a rainy day that might come, it's one that will come. There will come a time when you have a catastrophic failure of infrastructure, when the infrastructure is, in some cases, 50 years old. So this is a very wise thing to do.
And I'll just add the note so everyone knows what's coming. We do have a plan for an upcoming, I'm not sure what date, Governance and Priorities Committee agenda topic, really to discuss water through a couple different means. There's some information that's come through Alberta municipalities. We've had some other conversations around that, and it's just the time of year we're talking about water. So I know that's on our schedule over the next handful of meetings.
May 21st, I believe.
Excellent. So save up your additional water questions. Councillor Ostindi.
Just as an additional update in the same vein as Councillor Payne, the Wastewater Commission, the Regional Wastewater Commission, will be jacking up the rates in the future. That's fully anticipated. A minor adjustment was made this time to start a capital fund, or the growth of a capital fund, and it's nowhere near where it needs to be in terms of long-term capital fund for the Regional Wastewater Commission. So expect not just our rates to go up to build our capital reserve, but the Regional Wastewater Commission will be requisitioning the town, in effect, for much higher capital reserves in the future too.
Thank you for that great news. Any additional questions or debate, Council? Councillor Payne has a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Great, thank you. That is carried unanimously. Is there appetite for third reading? Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion that council grants third reading to amending bylaw number 1945-2026 as presented in AIR 1357.
Excellent. Another opportunity here for any additional questions or debate, Council? Seeing none, all those in favor of Councillor Mearns' motion? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's move into our next agenda item, and with our reshuffled agenda item, the Sylvan Lake and District Archives Society request. Miss Pumming. No, Miss Calicut. Okay. Sorry, old habits die hard.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I am here to request a change to the structure of the funding provided to the Sylvan Lake and District Archives Society. The archives have requested 3 separate things from the town. The first one being that the town provide the archives with any construction notices. That's absolutely not a problem and part of normal operations. And that we continue to partner with them on historical projects with the assurance that the archives employees would have first responsibility going to archives functions, and absolutely the town agrees to that. The third request is what I'm here to speak to council about. So the archives have requested that we reallocate our current staffing budget that we have set aside for the archives and add it to be part of their operating grant. So that would include the wages and the benefits associated with that position. They would hire, supervise, train, and manage their own staff, and they would be responsible for any occupational health and safety requirements and training compliance for their employees. Now, that would be a shift from the way that the town has been operating. There are advantages to the archives if we move to this model. So this would allow them to have the autonomy to hire the person they'd like to hire for that position, keeping in mind all of their operational needs. It would reduce some ongoing conflicts over training, OH&S requirements or expectations, and any other town duties that have been imposed. It would also clarify the employer responsibilities and reduce some administrative burden on the town. So for example, there wouldn't be any more payroll requirements. It would also still maintain our funding, our core funding, and that collaborative opportunities that the archives are requesting. Under the current agreement, the town does provide a number of operational supports to the archives. So some of this includes some communications assistance. For example, the archives has a page on the town website, and some IT support. So that support includes some assistance with things such as printer issues, spam or phishing concerns, password resets, if somebody has issues logging into the network or the computer, SharePoint access and inquiries, and any other email-related inquiries or issues that may come up. IT also supports things such as configuring their desktops. Their printers, for example, are included under our printer licensing. And those are all things that the IT department has been working on. Now, we do have some significant concerns when it comes to governance and cybersecurity. So as the archives would not fall under any of our mandatory IT training or cybersecurity protocols or our governance framework, there would be an increased risk associated with maintaining the town-issued email addresses or any access to the town's network. Now, we do have considerable training that goes into cybersecurity awareness and different practices that we have in place to ensure that everything stays safe on a cyber-related network. Now, we do not believe that it would be safe or appropriate to continue the network-based services or credentials. However, IT is prepared to continue to support the archives. So, for example, the printer can still stay under our current setup or contract and agreement that we have in place. They can still assist the archives with some login issues, and they can set up their own secure network. So this would be very similar to how we work some of the different entities in the NextSource Center. So for example, the Senior Center, they have their own network set up by our IT department and other leaseholders in the NextSource Center as well. It's the same kind of idea. And they would still continue to assist them in procuring computers. So right now when the archives is in need of, let's say, a computer, the IT department does assist them in that. We do have some better pricing that we can get and things like that when we do bulk ordering, and IT department is still prepared to assist them with that. Of course, just like right now, the archives do pay for their own computers. That would continue. So right now, we do not have a formal lease agreement or MOU with the archives. It has been noted that although there has been some council reports and things like that in the past, there isn't actually a formal agreement with the archives. A lot of the information states that the town will support the archives, but there's nothing specific. So we are recommending that council supports the town's ability to enter into an agreement with the archives. Some of that would include information such as the town utilizing the space when the archives is not in use. So for example, right now the archives utilizes the space 2 days a week for about 3 to 4 hours during those times. The formal agreement would also clearly outline the roles and responsibilities, allowable use of the space, notice provisions, so we're doing construction right now, that information would be noted in there, that we would be communicating with the archives anytime there's anything that could impact their operations, and that the archives share the space with the town during times when it's not in use. We are also requesting from council that we revisit this agreement every 3 years. It'll make sure that everything is up to date and everyone's needs are being met. So in your council package, there are a number of different options for council's consideration, and I will turn it over if there's any questions.
Sure, council, we'll start with questions. Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, we heard tonight in the open mic that there was concerns with IT support and the impacts, but based on what we see in the presentation, it sounds like the only difference would be on a separate network so that it wouldn't cause any security risks on the town network. Is that correct?
Partially, so yes, separate network. They also would not have any town credentials, so there would not be town email addresses or access to SharePoint, as that's all on the same network.
Okay.
Councillor Payne, and then Iwanicki.
Are there budget efficiencies that come along with being a part of the town as opposed to being separated? I know it comes down to an operational grant, but I can't imagine that it would be more efficient to go outside when everything is done by the town. So can you kind of talk to that?
Through the chair, there will be, for the town itself, there will be some cost savings just on payroll, cutting checks, those types of things. The hiring right now is done with the supervisor of the archives as well as members of the archive staff typically and our HR department. So in those respects, there would be cost savings for the town. On behalf of the archives, I can't speak if there would be any cost savings for them.
Councillor Iwanicki.
Sorry, I just want to clarify.
Sure.
Monique, do you mean if we move to strictly an operating grant, there's cost savings or cost savings in staying with it being part of the town?
Sorry, I understand. There would be cost savings for us administratively for sure. Right now, we also pay for some things. So for example, because the archive staff are part of our health and safety program, we would pay for the licensing for e-compliance, which is the platform that we're using. So there would be some cost savings there as well. Email addresses, for example, there is a cost associated with that, our health and wellness. So there would be some cost savings.
Councillor Iwanicki.
Sorry, I'm kind of skimming back through this at the same time. Okay, so help me understand the sort of process here. So the archives wants to take over its employment or employee, basically, from the town. Because of that, the town is saying we need to sever the IT aspect of things. And now you're trying to figure out how does that work? Or somebody's trying to figure out how that works. What conversations have you had with the archives about that technology issue? Are they aware that it may be, pardon my French here, but a big pain in the butt for them to operate like that?
Through the chair, so the two things they wouldn't have access to would be the town network, which our IT department would set them up with their own network. So our IT department would take care of that. That wouldn't fall on the archives, and that cost would fall to the town. The e-compliance, yes, you can manage your health and safety program any way you choose, and for a smaller organization, you don't necessarily need to have a platform like we have. So very likely they would not require a platform like that. So yes, that would not be an issue. The only other ones would be how information is shared, which it could be put on a flash drive, for example, or small files could be emailed. And our IT department is already assisting them with setting up computers, email addresses, those types of things, so they can still assist them with their own equipment or their own email addresses, for example. Our communications department would continue to house the information on the town of Sylvan Lake's website, so that's not something that they would need to take on. Right now, the archives does manage their own platform, their archives platform themselves. It isn't something that the town assists them with.
Sure.
Yeah, because my only concern is having migrated my own data from one service to another in the past. It's not fun. And I just want to make sure that they're aware that even if they got some support from our IT department, I mean, there's going to be a lot of back-end work on their own side to figure their own things out.
Sorry,
as long as those conversations are being had, then everyone's going into it with clear eyes, and that's fine.
So yes, I understand what you're saying. So the platform that Archives uses to store all of their data is their complete own separate entity. It's not part of the town.
Councillor Ostindi.
Thank you. Two questions. One is regarding an MOU review period being 3 years. Would it be onerous for the town to make it 2 years, just so that we catch issues, especially in the first cycle of potential partnership in this way, being needed to be reviewed sooner? How would that work? And then I have another question about webpage.
Through the chair, no, that's not a problem at all. 2 years is perfectly fine.
My second question is about the webpage, not so much the archives and their collection, as I understand it. We're speaking just of their webpage on the town site. Would that be able to be maintained by the town in perpetuity?
Through the chair, yes. So right now, our communications department primarily takes care of that page. The archive staff have not added or removed anything from that page. I did speak with our communications department, and they are comfortable with continuing that on.
Thank you.
Couple of questions and notes. What I'm understanding here, what brought about this change was my first question, and really it's OH&S requirements have morphed over the years and made that quite an onus. My actual question is, does the operating grant cover all of the additional costs that would be faced in terms of some of those IT challenges? Would it be, is it all encompassing of that? And then I've got a third portion.
So right now, the operating grant currently covers any of the funding requirements that would be needed for the archives platform. It would still continue because we would still do the IT assistance pieces that would be included. The only thing that may not be included is if the archives chooses to go with a different piece of software or something to hold more data perhaps, or external email addresses that are not available at no charge. Those are potentially two pieces.
Okay. I guess the part that I'm struggling here, and I'll speak really plainly, my understanding from council is when we've conversed about this, we're okay with this going either way. We know we have to follow OH&S restrictions, and ultimately if archives wants to have the town have more oversight, we can go that way, or not. The middle option is not an option, is what I very clearly understand. And it almost feels like there's a bit of a missing piece here in terms of, maybe before it gets to the council stage, is the uncertainty that there's no actual contract been presented potentially, and how do we maybe get to that point and then council approves that contract, knowing we're happy to go either way, but it does have to fully swing one way or the other. We can't live in the middle. Is there potentially some more work on that then could come back with what that final number is for us? Or how do we, because then if there's specific challenges in the contract, it sounds like there's just some uncertainty and nobody's quite clear what that looks like. It's kind of missing that piece, so it's hard to give that council direction on my part right now, because ultimately my thought is happy to go either way, but it is, yeah, one or the other, and we've kind of heard one way doesn't work, but then this way doesn't work, so I don't really know what what they want. And I'd love to see a draft of that come forward or that next step. So that's not really a question, but how do we logistically get that over that hurdle that I'm struggling with here? Ms. Phillips, I'll maybe tip to you to defer.
My recommendation would be if there was support for like the way we're presenting now, because we've received some support in principle to move forward with our having more of a role with archives, having them as employees, but us working with the board, and that role would continue as is. The archives didn't seem to be as supportive of that one. They had some concerns, I believe, over autonomy and being able to continue as they've currently been working. And as you stated, we have a concern with that one with regards to staffing, because, you know, regardless of how it initially started, it's very clear that nowadays, you know, when we hire an employee, if they're being paid by us, they are our employee, and we have to treat them as such. So there's a lot of requirements there. So if council was supportive of us proceeding in this manner, where we would increase the operating grant, the archives would, I related it very similarly to like the library, where it's a grant and they have their board they run, and a little different, but the same idea. We could have a motion to bring back a draft agreement, lease agreement, on what that would look like for council to approve or to show their support of. Would that work? Sorry.
Sure.
Yes, if I could add though, if council is in support of this generally, it would be beneficial to the archives if council provided that support. The archives have been waiting to hire a staff person, and so
Yes.
we really don't want to delay that for them. If it is about council wanting to see what that agreement could look like, and concerns right now that this is going to cost the archives some money for email addresses or that type of thing, we do have some operational savings because we have not had an individual in that position. So if council is agreeable, we can work within our current budget right now and assist them with some of those things, and then bring forward after that agreement and next year for a new budget cycle, what those actuals would look like with that staffing piece taken out as part of the operational, and then some of those other key pieces.
I guess my really direct question that I'm looking to get answered is this what they want? Because I heard in open mic it was no. If the answer is yes, then I think we're all really happy to go going this direction. And I know we can't ask that in a meeting, so I'm wondering how we get to that answer. Councillor Payne.
I don't think there's an easy in between. Like it's either they run it themselves or we run it. And so I don't think there's necessarily a need to have it come back again with an agreement. It's either we do as an operating grant, like we do with the library, or we don't. To me, there's not another space. And if we do, we start getting too into the weeds with things. And I think the idea is we don't want to be in control of this piece. But I think I'm stuck with the same question that the mayor has. Is this what the archives want? Do they want it to be an operating grant that is distant from us, where we simply issue the grant like we do with the library and allow the archives board to do what they want? Simple. Am I oversimplifying? I don't think I'm oversimplifying.
We're sitting in the same place. Councillor Iwanicki and then Mearns. Oh, and then Ostindi.
Yeah, and I'll sort of circle back to what kind of was being said around here a lot, and I'll speak plainly. I'm concerned that there isn't a draft agreement already in place. Like, I can't fully wrap my head around how there isn't some agreement in principle. It doesn't have to be signed off on, but something that like brought forward to us saying we've kind of figured these components out. And so if we haven't gotten there yet, but we're making decisions, how do we know what's going to be coming back to us 2 months from now?
I'll just jump in. My intel tells me that with the support of council, we could ask that question of the archives group that is here with us today. Council, do you support asking that question? Yes? Councillor Mearns might not.
Sorry, just what question are we asking?
Just really the question of, is this separate grant or is it in-house? Really, what is that preference? If I'm not seeing any objection from council there, I'd love to ask you that question, Archives. You're well represented here. Thanks for sticking through. Are you in favor of the operating grant route? Yes, please.
So to clarify one thing before we go ahead, so council is stating that this is an either or. So either the archives administrator or manager becomes an employee of the town or continues to be, or they are an employee of ours. True? It's an either or. Okay. So that means that because what you will have had in your package, you know, which was extensive, we know, showed that our employee had historically been a budget line in payroll, wasn't your employee, was an agreement where that person was paid from payroll. That was where the waters were muddied some time ago. But now we're talking about an either or. Okay, what's your question?
So I guess that is my question. Yes, I understand that the waters have been very muddy, but starting from today's date, we need to clarify that. So
Got it.
Is there a preference? And do you need time to take that back and answer it for either having that be a town employee or funded through this grant and completely separate? Those are really the choices that we have.
Yeah,
Has there been conversation around that?
Our decision. Yeah, our decision will be that just as when it had presented, we would like to have this office administrator become our own employee.
Great. Thank you. That really helps us in terms of the steps forward that the operating grant is the direction that we'll start to work towards. Thank you. Does that answer the council question? Thank you. I appreciate you stepping in.
And it rather explains why your note and then the earlier presentation was ambiguous for you, because honestly, the way it had been going, you know, had worked for us up until the point where our person was absorbed as your employee, and it was not known to us that that had occurred. Now you know why. We didn't know, because it's not in the minutes anywhere.
Appreciate that background. That, I think, is the hope of all of us, is that it lets us move forward and make sure we're clear. So
We
thank
know
you.
what we're dealing with. Okay.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Will that?
I will say we went quite out of protocol asking that question, so I want to be careful that we don't go too far here. But I think after the decision is made by council, there certainly is still, we're very early in this process, so there's lots of opportunity to have further conversation. So I'll pull this back to the council discussion. Council, do we have further questions before we put a motion on the floor? Seeing none, would someone like to put forward a motion? Oh, sorry, Holly, yes. Councillor Bilodeau.
Thank you, I'm actually here. What I was confused about was, you know, we're talking about whether they take the operational grant, whether they're employee, but we've seemed to have separated this piece about the network-based services, this IT piece. And my question was, like, is it an option? Because, you know, administration is suggesting there's concerns with governance and cybersecurity. Is there an option to give them support in that area rather than kind of like cutting them off and having them go on their own? And that sounds very, that sounds like a lot to have them get their own emails and so on. Is that an option? Because I mean, I don't fully understand what the concerns are for the IT, but that's what I want to know a little bit more about that piece of it.
Sure, Ms. Calicut, and then I do see your question as well, Councillor Elstindi, so after this, we'll hop to you.
So we typically do not provide access to our network for external groups, and that's really because of the safety and security piece to it. Our IT department would be able to speak more fully on this, but it does open us up to risk. And so really that is a council decision. If council is comfortable with us opening ourselves up to risk, that is something that administration would move forward on. The recommendation would be that we continue to keep a tight hold on our cybersecurity. We've all seen phishing emails, those types of things that come through. It's very hard to limit what people click on or do unless there's really strict protocols in place and that IT governance. It is difficult with an external group, so very much like the senior center, for example. That's why we provide them with the separate network that they can access, and they are responsible for those pieces, so that if somebody does inadvertently do something, it does not impact our cybersecurity.
So there would potentially be, so having said that, that makes sense. Can we walk them through getting them to that point? Like, did we do that with the senior center?
So through the chair, our IT department set up the network for them. We take on those costs, for example, yet the IT department can still assist them setting up their email addresses and walking them through that and provide some recommendations on cybersecurity. At the end of the day, though, a group really should take responsibility for that. If we were to say these are some things that you should do, and if those mechanisms fail, or if trends aren't kept up on, that does fall back on the town.
Councillor Ostindi.
I was just going to add that when we read those motions, the second motion contains the number 3, and if it's read into the record with the number 2, in other words, 2 years for the review. And then I'll enter debate, take my turn when we've got the motions in.
Sure, thank you. If we've got no further questions, Council, I will look for someone. I think I'm trying to think if those should all be severed or go together. And I think with that amendment, they are all quite linked. So would someone like to make those motions? Councillor Iwanicki.
You want all 3 at once, you said?
Yeah, I think that's.
That council approves the inclusion of staffing and benefit costs within the archives operating grant and discontinue the provision of town network-based services or credentials to the archives. That council direct administration to develop a formal written agreement with the archives that clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities, allowable use of the space, and the requirement for the Sylvan Lake and District Archive Society to share the space with the town for municipal purposes when not open to the public, and that the formal agreement includes a requirement for a comprehensive review every 2 years.
Excellent. We have a motion on the floor that certainly includes that the development of an agreement is really the next step. Council, do we have questions or debate? Councillor Ostindi, we'll let you start.
Sure. Yeah, I support the direction that council is allowing. Overall, I really summarize this whole report in the words that archives wants some money and independence, and we as a town were willing to offer even more involvement and support, and the society prefers to work in a more independent setting, and I will completely support that because of my great confidence in their society. And I'll just say I do totally support also what administration has put forward in terms of the website support, the operations support of doing emails, etc., the network that they need to build. And I'm also very strongly in support of severing the IT relationship in terms of the security, cybersecurity. I have seen it from personal experience with the Senior Center Society as well, that the town is well protected by excluding outside agencies. And it opens up, and you know, as a member of the Seniors Association, I certainly would have hated to be the one that cost the town, literally it can cost the town into the millions of dollars when cyber security gets completely wrecked. So we have real big and real risks for IT, and I do understand we need to put a firewall on that relationship. Yeah, that's the key. And also at the same time, although I'm supporting this full movement for the society to exercise their full independence as a society, I want them to know that my bias is, having run many societies in the past and currently, being very active still, that if they, after 3 months or 3 years or whenever, decide that, no, we would like to take the option up with the town, too bad we went this way, no, I would totally support a reversal of their desire to look for more support for the town. It doesn't matter if it's 3 months from now or 3 years from now. I, I want to honor their independence and desire for that. And I want to honor if they want to change their minds in the future too, because they provide a valuable service to our community and have had a long and great relationship. And I look forward to many, many more projects that our town can do with archives.
Thank you. Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, and I just want to add my 2 cents to this, just with the lovely ladies in the room. I have two just sort of generalized comments. The one is, I think everyone needs to be cognizant of what happens if an agreement isn't reached, right? Like that could very likely happen, not likely, I shouldn't say that, but it is certainly possible it happens, that both sides can't see eye to eye on things. Where do we go from there? So just everyone keep that in their mind. And then the second is succession planning within your board, right? It's a volunteer organization. Just be cognizant of that fact, right? I'm fully supporting a desire for independence from the town. I think that's a great thing. You do, like Councillor Stindy said, provide a great service to the town. But as long as everyone's clear-eyed on that, and that's the route everyone wants to go forward, and that's what everyone's happy with, I'm in support. So.
Wonderful. Any additional comments, Council? I'll just give you the plug. Just a reminder, next Wednesday is the Archives AGM, and there's always a great presentation. So if anyone's available just after lunchtime, it is, I believe you have a calendar invite in your calendars. I'm sure they'd love to see us. Yeah, or to run for the board. You never know. Volunteer, all kinds of options. Council, we've got a number of linked motions on the floor. Sorry, I did not write who made that motion. Councillor Iwanicki, thank you. Any additional debate? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, we've reached just over an hour, so let's take a 10-minute recess and then we will resume the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll call the meeting back to order at the Pugado Park Diamond refurbishments. Mr. Tooney, welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Tonight, I'm here to do a couple of reports. The first one is to request Council's approval to award the tender for the Pugado Park Diamond refurbishments. On February 25th, 2026, a request for tender was put out on the town's procurement's website and notices placed in the Sylvan Lake News and on Alberta Purchasing Connection. 7 proponents downloaded the documents, and we had 2 sealed tenders received on or before the closing deadline. The scope of work tendered was to remove the existing surfacing and regrade the clay base, ensure the sub-drainage system is not blocked, placement of new drainage rock and shale surfacing, and to remove the ridge between the infield and the outfield. The proposals were scored out of 100 points based on the criteria in the report. Monarch Earthworks received the highest overall score with a proposed price of $212,113.65, excluding the GST. The capital budget is sufficiently funded for this tender. There are 3 options this evening for council to consider, and administration respectfully recommends option 1 and proposes the following motion. The council approves report AIR 1373 to award the tender for Pugado Park Diamond refurbishment to Monarch Earthworks for an amount not to exceed $215,000 exclusive of GST.
Thank you. I'll start with the question that every ball player in town is itching to ask. What is the timeline if this was awarded tonight?
So, through Your Worship, the proposed timeline is to do 1 diamond at the beginning of the season here once the frost is out of the ground. So we're looking at mid to end of May to start that work, and it's approximately 2 to 3 weeks to do the first diamond, at which time we will see how the repairs work, and then we have scheduled to do the remaining 3 diamonds after the Labor Day weekend, when operationally ball's kind of wrapping up for the year.
Thank you. Additional questions, council? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Councilor Mearns.
Make a motion that council approves report AIR 1373 to award the tender for Pugado Park Diamond refurbishment to Monarch Earthworks Limited for an amount not to exceed $215,000 exclusive of GST.
Wonderful. We'll open it up for any debate and conversation, council. Seeing none. Motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to also Pugado Park, the irrigation mainline extension.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to request Council's approval to award the tender for Pugado Park Phase 4 irrigation mainline extension. On February 17th, 2026, a request for tender was posted to the town's procurement website and notices placed on Alberta Purchasing Connection and within the Sylvan Lake News. 7 vendors downloaded the RFT documents, and 2 bids were received on or before the closing deadline. The criteria that the RFT was scored on is listed in the council report here, and our consultant on this project, 818 Studio, has also reviewed and is recommending that we award the project to Delta Valley Landscaping for who had a tender price of $174,900 excluding GST. The Pugado Park Phase 4 development capital budget is sufficiently funded to complete this work. In front of you are 3 options, and administration respectfully recommends option 1 and proposes the following motion. The council approves report AIR 1374 to award the tender for Pogato Park Phase 4 irrigation mainline extension to Delta Valley Landscaping for an amount not to exceed $175,000 exclusive of GST.
Excellent. Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Seeing none, other than a thumbs up.
One question, sorry.
Oh, sure. I wasn't sure if that was just you were happy out there. Councillor Ostindi.
Yes, I am happy too. But the question is, this is the trunk line for irrigation to be branched off to all the different fields and that. I'm wondering, is this call it the final trunk line expansion, or will we need to extend irrigation, the main line, further? Or effectively, is this the line that will then allow us to irrigate everything with the branches coming off of it?
Thank you for the question. Through your worship, yes, this will be the final mainline extension. This will take the line to outside of the future natural grass soccer fields, so that we are prepared for future construction, as well as being ahead of the development of roads and parking lot, which this line directly is below.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, council? Seeing none, would someone like to make that motion? Councillor Iwanicki.
Move that council approve the no, that's not right. Sorry, I was looking ahead. That council approves report AIR 1374 to award the tender for Pogato Park Phase 4 irrigation mainline extension to Delta Valley Landscaping for an amount not to exceed $175,000 exclusive of GST.
Excellent. Council, any further comments or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up, we'll move to the wonderful Mr. Lebsack for the 2026 Municipal Enforcement Strategic Priorities.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. As I'm sure everybody remembers here, we first brought the 2026 strategic priorities to Council on March 24th and had a discussion with Council. At that point in time, Council had made some recommendations for us to bring it back, make some updates or some changes to the plan, and now we were bringing it back again for the second time for Council's review. So I'll just go through the presentation that's included, has all the changes or updates they're kind of highlighted. It's the best I could do with the highlighting on the computer, but they're somewhat in yellow in there. And I'll just read them off here just so that we're all aware it happened. So administration took council's feedback and recommendations and made the following changes to the 2026 Municipal Enforcement Strategic Priorities. The first one was wording throughout the document to reflect an increased focus on enforcement. And I think the biggest one there is, I think it's page 2 or 3 in the vision. We've included that there as well as throughout the document. Under priority 1, we've replaced the noise objective with no smoking objective, just to reflect the smoke-free zone in the lakefront. In priority 2, we maintained the pet community initiative as we have seen an increase in dog bites and or attacks over the past few years. So I know we had a conversation about the pet initiative in here. From administration's point of view, we do feel like it should be a priority. We did just have another one over the weekend, so they're not going away or going down, let's put it that way. Priority 3, where there was no changes to the traffic safety initiative. Priority 4, we replaced that as it was reducing alcohol-related harm, and we replaced it completely with a proactive community enforcement initiative. That's the one that talks about proactive officer self-generated files going through the community and being proactive throughout things, especially things like unsightly properties, snow removal, those kinds of items. And then priority 5, future investments, we added wording to include referrals to the Youth Justice Committee. So again, as you can see, the plan is attached with the changes identified, and administration respectfully recommends the council approve the 2026 municipal enforcement strategy priorities as presented.
Thank you. Council, will start with any questions. Great. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Oh, Ms. Phillips.
I'm just unsure if Councillor Stindy's hand is up intentionally or not.
Thank you. Councillor Stindy, your question.
It's not so much a question, I was going to make comments, so I was going to wait.
Sure. Let's get a motion on the floor then. Would you like to make that motion by chance, Councillor Ostindi?
I think I could as well. Well, I just flipped pages. Give me 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds.
No problem. It is, I always find that so complicated trying to have us on the screen and agendas. So
yes.
Take your time.
I move that council approve the 2026 municipal enforcement strategic priorities as presented in report AIR 1375. And if I can speak to the motion?
Please do.
I just want to highlight 3 things that make me especially want to support it. Council has put forward an increased enforcement mandate, you might say, and desire for our community, and it's a tough one to balance with what's been a very good approach by bylaw, the inform, educate, and enforce. And I appreciate the efforts that our municipal enforcement staff are going to be doing to make things better, and yet to still educate and our citizens and our visitors. Another one I really want to highlight that I really appreciate is the youth justice and the work that municipal enforcement will do to helping with youth justice and referring kids to like restorative justice and things like that. And the last one is really tough on people, unsightly properties. You know, when you really can identify with and empathize with a neighbor who's, you know, just trying to get through life and maybe running a business, but at the same time, you don't want their business thrown all over and dumped all over your view of town as well. You know, collection of old cars or building materials. And, you know, there's a number of unsightly properties. I've talked to people, they've talked to me, and they just wish they didn't have to complain about their own neighbors. So it's a tough one on municipal enforcement again, but I think a lot of people will appreciate the proactiveness on that file especially. That's all I'll say. I'm ready to support it.
Thank you. I'll echo that with my own comments of just thank you. Mr. Lebsack, you've had tremendous patience with us on this bylaw because we first deferred it because it was past all of our bedtimes, and then we had changes, and then, so this is the 3rd time that we've seen that on our agenda, and you've been prepared, but it certainly looks like you took all of the feedback that was presented at the last meeting, and it's captured here really well. Appreciate both that proactive enforcement side, especially because it ties with that neighborhood connections in my mind. It's really hard to have a good connection with a neighbor that you have to call enforcement on, so that takes a bit of that out of the equation, but also, same as Councillor Osindi, the youth justice side is nice to see written in black and white and yellow in this copy. So thank you for that. Council, any additional comments? Councillor Iwanicki.
I have a whole list of no, I'm just kidding. No, thank you very much. I really appreciate the edits. I just want to second what Mayor Hansen said. So I'm fully in support of this now.
That's great. With that, we've got a motion on the floor by Councillor Ostindi. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Lebsack and team, for, again, your patience on that. Next, we'll move along to budget adjustment parks equipment.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. As we've explained here in the background, our budget, our 26 capital budget project allowed us to move forward with a beach groomer and a purchase of a beach groomer and a tractor for down at the beach. As you can see here, let me just start to read. Following capital budget approval of the town's tendered out the beach groomer equipment purchase and received quotes from 2 suppliers, both from the same parent company. So one from the East Coast, one from the West Coast, but both from the same parent company. The low quote came in at $66,060, for the beach groomer model that did not provide a hydraulic lift to dump directly into the 1-ton truck. So not very much over the budget, but did not meet kind of the requirements that we have. We don't figure that having one that is going to dump on the ground, leave it there, and have our staff shovel it into the back of a 1-ton is going to do us any good or make any efficiencies for us. So again, once we worked through that, got the unit with the hydraulic lift. It's still the same sized unit. We didn't have to upsize it all, but just that whole idea of having the hydraulic lift on it increased that price way up to the $98,260. As a result of the beach groomer being upgraded, then the tractor that we had originally spec'd is no longer sufficient to pull the beach groomer, especially through sand, and so that has been upgraded as well. So as you can see there, the two equipment purchases have a combined funding of $99,000, and the quotes received for the two equipment purchase project was $217,260. So certainly not even close. As part of discussion here, administration has identified two areas for the budget adjustment. The first area is from visitor paid parking funds. The 2026 visitor paid parking program is projected to gross the 1.6 in revenue, but the remaining net of $311,000 is to be added to the paid parking reserve, which currently has $364,799 in the reserve. So that would bumping it up well over the $600,000. The second funding area identified by administration is what Mr. Tooney just presented, was the Pogattle Park diamond refurbishments, came in much under budget. In discussion with our finance department, Mr. Moore, he would like to maintain that funding coming out of the paid parking reserve because it is obviously for the lakefront, and the other funding for the Pogattle Park diamonds comes out of a different reserve. So we'd like to just keep that, maintain that continuity there. So as you can see, we've provided some options, but the proposed recommendation is administration respectfully recommends the council approve the budget adjustment in the amount of, for CP 2605 in the amount of $74,000, and a budget adjustment for CP 2607 in the amount of $44,260 to come from the visitor paid parking reserve.
Thank you. Council will start with any questions. Councillor Bilodeau.
I'm just curious what is the projected lifespan of the equipment? And I'm wondering if that tractor, if there's other uses for it.
Through the chair, yes, so the lifespan on the tractor, we currently have all our equipment lifespan at 10 years. So that would maintain a 10-year lifespan on that piece of equipment before we would replace it through the mobile equipment replacement program. And yes, we do have another option or other uses for that. It would certainly go into the ditch mower rotation. So it would be used on the lakefront at least 2 times, possibly 3 times a week, depending on I guess the speed, if you'd call it that, the efficiency of how we do lakefront. And then it could also be used in ditch mowing on those other days.
Thank you.
That brings a great side question for me. Is lifespanning different on equipment that's used year-round versus seasonally?
We don't have very much equipment that is used only seasonally. So in this instance, the tractor would probably be used in the summertime as well, but I guess the quick answer without going through all our equipment would be no, that heavy equipment is what this would be rated as, would be in that same lifespan.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions? Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Payne.
I move that council approve the budget adjustment for CP 2605 in the amount of $74,000 and a budget adjustment for CP 2607 in the amount of $44,260 to come from the visitor pay parking reserve as per report AIR 1376.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll open it up for any debate. Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to Mr. Moore. 2025 fiscal year unaudited financial reports. I feel like with this big long desk, we should have like walk-up music for every director. Put in your song requests. I'll get on my Spotify playlist in the next meeting. We do need to use the mics, but the question is, what would your theme song be, Mr. Moore?
Back in Black by ACDC. You don't listen to music at the gym, so I know that. No headphones, so.
We'll let you think on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hansen. If I might say something that a number of people won't recognize, maybe.
We'll make you age yourself.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good evening, Council and Mayor Hansen. So this report, we're just looking to present the 2025 fiscal year unaudited financial reports. So this is part of our process every year. We like to bring this report to Council. The format is a little different. It's based on basically how we budgeted. It is a different format, and there's different information that you'll see in this compared to the audited financial statements, which are coming on April 27th. So we went to corporate services just last week, April 7th, and they went over them and recommended they go to Council for acceptance. So the reports are attached, as you can see there, and I won't go into them unless you'd like me to, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions the Council may have.
Wonderful. We'll open it up for questions, Council. And I'll just note, in the absence of questions, we also do have a community or corporate services committee that is about half of council that meets on these quarterly and has the chance to detail page by page, line by line on all of these items and answer any questions, clarify any notes. So that has been done, which would be why there's often minimal questions at this point. But any questions, Council? Great. Would someone like to make that motion? Councillor Mearns.
Make the motion that Council accept the 2025 fiscal year unaudited financial report as information presented in AIR 1364.
Wonderful. We'll open it up for any debate or further comments. Councillor Payne.
Mr. Moore's crystal ball is always usually pretty good, but in this report, it was a lot of higher than anticipated. So I was a little surprised when I went through that. I thought, you know, he's usually pretty close. So I don't know. What's happening, Mr. Moore?
Through the chair to Councillor Payne, I'm not sure if there's a question in there or what.
Is there any specific Councillor Payne items that you're?
No, actually, I was quite happy to go through this. It's for anyone who's never gone through one of these. It's always interesting to see the variances, the percentage of variance in these various things, and wonder, you know, what does that mean? And a lot of the time, it's a little confusing. But when you look at something like return on investments, and you realize that you did twice as well as you had hoped you would, you know, that's a very nice thing. That's a very good thing for our taxpayers, a very good thing for the community. So, yeah, just very well managed.
Yeah, through the chair, if I can just, you know, specifically that when return on investments, we have been sitting on a lot of cash this past year, largely due to our carryovers. There's a number of projects that, you know, are carried over with larger capital projects. So, you know, that helps us with our money in the bank and return on investment. So, yeah.
Excellent. Seeing no further comments, and we do have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, next we'll move along to a number of resolutions relating to Alberta municipalities resolutions. We will start with Town of Ruby's request. Mr. McIntyre, welcome.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight I've got a couple reports to you and looking for a few resolutions. We'll start with the request to second resolutions from the town of Penhold and Rimbey. So this is something that we reviewed at our last governance and priorities meeting, and Council provided feedback to administration, and we're bringing it back to you now today for formal decision. The town of Penhold proposes a resolution seeking advocacy for plain language audit reporting. The aim is to highlight risks such as unexplained variances, weak internal controls, procurement anomalies, and potential indicators of fraud, rather than limiting these issues to technical or internal communications. The desired outcome there is increased transparency, stronger financial oversights, reduced long-term financial risk, and greater public confidence in municipal financial management and governance. And then we also have a resolution that we are requested to second from the town of Rimbey. And they are proposing that Alberta municipalities urge the government of Alberta to review and strengthen a regulatory framework governing the use of fresh water in hydraulic fracturing, with the clear objective of protecting residential and agriculture water needs first. The goal of the resolution is to reduce reliance on fresh water by accelerating the use of alternative sources such as saline water and recycled produced water, while clarifying and aligning the roles of the Alberta Energy Regulator and the Alberta Environment and Protected Areas in water allocation decisions. The desired outcome there is more transparent, accountable, and consistent water management system that safeguards freshwater resources, improves public and municipal confidence, and supports long-term sustainability. There are rules when it comes to seconding motions at Alberta municipalities, and one is that municipalities have to be in different population segments. And we are, that Penhold and Rimbey are within the threshold of 2,501 to 10,000, and the town of Sylvan Lake has a population of over 10,000, so we are all squared away as far as they are concerned. At the April 7th Governance and Priorities meeting, Council spoke favorably about being a seconder to the town of Rimbey, and we followed up more with the town of Penhold to basically confirm their intentions, and those intentions are reflected in the report. As far as actions from tonight, Council may move to second the resolutions and provide feedback to the sponsoring municipality regarding amendments. And respectfully, we ask that Council consider these requests in two separate motions. And if Council has any comments, questions, concerns, I'm here to help.
Great. Council, we'll start with questions and then we'll deal with these one at a time. Do we have any questions for Mr. McIntyre? Would someone like to put forward the motion relating to the town of Penhold's request? Councillor Iwanicki, thank you.
I move that Council approve being seconder to the town of Penhold's Alberta Municipalities resolution regarding municipal audit statements.
Great. Council, do we have any comment or discussion around that? Councillor Payne.
I think the concern when we discussed this in our prior meeting was that they were asking to review policy and principles and how things were done. And I think that's not what their intention is. Their intention is simply to have clarity in the way it's presented, and that's I think that's perfectly fine. That's not asking them to change anything in depth. So I think it's fine.
Great. Seeing Councillor Ostindi, sorry.
Yeah, I would just ditto to Councillor Payne's, and the idea of the benefit to the public, I like that addition to it as well. I appreciate the clarity that our administration has found with Penhold, and I can fully support it too. I was very cautious last time.
Seeing some agreements, Council, the other portion of this that I'd like to address is just ensuring we've designated a council spokesperson. I will say, Councillor Ostindi, I'm really eyeing you up for the town of Rimbey's request, so I'm wondering if anyone else would happen to like to be the expert on the Penhold motion, who could speak to it if needed, and just ensure we're well represented and able to support them. Councillor Payne, was that a hand?
I would be fine with it. Of course, briefing notes from Mr. Moore and Ms. Phillips would be very appreciated.
Wonderful. Thank you for putting your hand up for that. With that, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And I think that was carried unanimously. No? Okay, I am very sorry. The delays. Can I just ask for that one more time, and I'll do a bit of separation between the two. The lag online does make it challenging. So all those in favor? And now put your hands down. And all those opposed? Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it. Would someone like to make the motion around Town of Rimbey? Councillor Mearns?
Make a motion that the council approve being secondary to the Town of Rimbey's Alberta Municipalities Resolution regarding the use of fresh water in hydraulic fracturing.
Great. Do we have any further conversation around this one? Fairly straightforward. Councillor Oostende, I did sort of nominate you, but are you comfortable being our spokesperson on this item?
That would work fine with me, yes.
Great. Put your name down then. With that, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? Great, that is carried unanimously. Perfect. And we've noted both of those names, and prior to Alberta Munis, we'll ensure that you both have the appropriate notes. We will continue on. Mr. McIntyre?
Thank you, Mayor. So diving into the next one, we have an initiative here to sponsor a resolution at Alberta Municipalities. This one will be a little bit more lengthy of a presentation because there are some more details that are new. So the purpose of this report is to seek endorsement of a proposed Alberta Municipalities resolution advocating for improved transparency, communication, and timelines within Alberta's family support for children with disabilities. So that is the FSCD program. The Town of Sylvan Lake has an opportunity to sponsor a resolution for the upcoming convention in Edmonton, September 23rd to 25th. At the Governance and Priorities meeting of April 7th, Council spoke favorably regarding supporting a resolution for improved transparency, communication, and timelines within Alberta's FSCD program. The FSCD program is administered by the province and intended to provide timely needs-based support to children with disabilities and their families. Across Alberta, families continue to report prolonged wait times, often extending years, before receiving approved supports, frequently with limited communication regarding application status, anticipated timelines, or next steps. Municipal leaders, including those in the Town of Sylvan Lake, regularly hear from residents navigating these delays while attempting to remain active in the workforce, support children with complex needs, and maintain family stability. While municipalities do not administer the FSCD program, the impacts of prolonged service delays are felt at the local level through workforce participation, family well-being, and increased pressure on community-based supports. In 2022, routine public reporting of FSCD waitlist data was discontinued. And while some information is released periodically, the absence of consistent, publicly accessible wait time data and proactive communication has created uncertainty for families and communities seeking to understand the system pressures and progress in addressing backlogs. So, for discussion, the proposed resolution requests that Alberta municipalities advocate to the Government of Alberta to reinstate routine public reporting on FSCD waitlists and wait times, improve proactive, individualized communication with families awaiting services, commit targeted, time-limited resources to reduce existing backlogs, and embed transparency and timelines as core operational standards within the FSCD program. The resolution focuses on governance-level improvements, transparency, communication, and timeliness, rather than prescribing program design or service delivery changes. This approach aligns with Alberta municipalities' advocacy role and respects provincial jurisdiction. The draft resolution, which is attached to the report, was refined following feedback that we received from Inclusion Alberta, a provincial organization representing individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. The feedback emphasized the importance of clearly articulating the real-world impacts of FSCD delays, including employment loss, financial hardship, missed developmental opportunities for children, and negative mental and physical health impacts across families. This input has been incorporated while maintaining the factual, nonpartisan tone suitable for mayoral sponsorship and the Alberta municipalities' consideration. As Alberta Municipalities is a member municipality, the town of Sylvan Lake is eligible to sponsor a resolution for submission. Should council approve sponsorship of the resolution, a second municipality will be sought out from a differing population segment, either under 10,000 or over 100,000. And as reviewed before, we have until May 31st to formalize those presentations and submit them to Alberta municipalities. We're not anticipating any financial impacts, although of course staff time would be dedicated to preparing the resolution and submitting it to Alberta municipalities. So should council approve the proposed resolution, administration will submit the endorsed resolution to Alberta municipalities and begin that outreach to an eligible seconding municipality as required. So that is the gist of the report. And again, if council has any comments or questions, I'm here to help.
Thank you. We'll start with questions. Councillor Iwanicki.
I know we haven't decided on this yet, but have we circulated around it in concept to anyone to just get a sense on if someone will second us?
Not from an administrative perspective. We've just heard that feedback from Inclusion Alberta, unless the mayor has undertaken her own initiatives.
I've initially floated the conversation, and I've said I'd do some follow-up depending on the results of the council conversation tonight. So I don't foresee any challenges us finding a seconder to this. Great. Seeing no further questions, allow me to put the motion on the floor. That council sponsor the Alberta Municipalities Resolution titled FSCD Transparency and Timely Access, and authorize its submission to Alberta municipalities for consideration at the upcoming convention. And I'll open it up for any conversation. Councillor Payne.
Well, I don't see how this is a municipal issue. I also don't see the problem with it being an advocacy issue for Alberta municipalities. I feel like this is one more piece that the province is not doing wonderfully well, and it's been not going wonderfully well for a decade or more. So I think the advocacy piece is valid. It's not costing us anything to do this. It's simply asking for attention to be drawn to the issue. So I support it in that respect. But again, I just echo, I struggle when the issue is not municipally related, and that's the only piece I have here.
Absolutely. Councillor Martins.
Yeah, I'd heard Mayor Hansen pose this question at a recent conference, and the minister in charge of this gave a great political answer, non-committal and way out there. So this is something that I'm happy to support. And yeah, you know, Councillor Payne's point, you know, it affects people in our community. So I think that's how I would see it, as a municipal issue, not necessarily a governance issue, to your point, but it's something I support. And I know Mayor Hansen has personally dealt with this and has had tons of conversations with people in our community. So happy to support this.
Seeing no additional comments, I'll just say thank you for your consideration, Council. This really absolutely is not a Sylvan Lake municipal issue, but this is an issue that impacts a ton of residents. I know firsthand what a challenge it is, especially with those workforce challenges, with early childhood development, all of those things that are linked to it. And I've given you the example before when I first introduced this, but just a couple of years ago, to apply for support through this program, you would have had a caseworker within 3 months. If you apply for this program today, you are lucky if you have a caseworker 4 years from now. Many of the services that you access through this are for early childhood development. If you have a doctor that is incredibly on the ball for most of the things that this supports, you might get a diagnosis at 3 years old, and the supports expire for many of the services that you'd be looking to get at 6. So when you do the math on this, this is a non-existent program that says it exists on paper. Like, it's really not serving anyone. So the resolution was really intentionally crafted, not around a financial ask, although ultimately that really is what it comes down to. More money needs to go into this program in order to clear the backlog, but as a first step, that transparency. One of the other challenges with the program is once you apply, you hear nothing until a caseworker contacts you. So you have no idea the weight you have in front of you and that uncertainty when every door you knock on looking for support says, this is the magic program. No, we can't help you, but apply for this, it'll help you. Without that communication, it really is a very incredibly long wait. So appreciate just the opportunity to use this platform to put it on the floor. And hopefully that's something that's seen or heard from other municipalities across Alberta. Even if not supported, I hope it starts a conversation, because unfortunately many of those, Councillor Ostindi, and I will hop to you next, many of those that are struggling with this, a lot of the challenges you face are genetic and have a link to a parent, so you may not have the best, you may not have adults with the advocacy ability to speak on behalf of this. So I'm happy to be able to do that for the very many of residents that are also on this list. Councillor Ostindi.
Yeah, I was just going to say the urgency of providing services is critical due to the window of opportunity the human brain gives us as it evolves as we age. There's only certain windows of time where a child can learn certain skills very well and very quickly. And if we miss those opportunities, our language developments, our behaviors, all are very highly impaired for the rest of our lives. Not that we cannot learn anything beyond certain windows, but there's certain windows that are very strong for learning certain skills in the human development. But it wasn't until I was reading this report that I had a flashback to this winter staying in Whitehorse. And where I stayed in Whitehorse at Family's place was across the street from the Early Childhood Development of Association and Center of the Yukon. And it's amazing how many parents are stopping there and dropping off their kids and heading off to work. And to think, if a parent doesn't have that center, doesn't have that service, they can't head off to work. And it never struck me until I was reading the report. So I appreciate that kind of reawakening in my mind, what an economic development, education, economic development force education is, providing service to children so that parents can also work and give security to their family. So it's an amazing ripple effect for our economy and for the health and well-being of our families.
Thank you. Council not seeing any further comments, we have a motion on the floor, so I'll ask all in favor. And opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you, and personally, thank you, Council, for supporting that. I really appreciate it. All right, next we'll move into the request for an alternate deputy mayor appointment. I think I can introduce this. Deputy Mayor Payne is unavailable those days. Often that's not a conflict if I am in town and able to do all of the requests and roles that are required of me, but I am also attending the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it is H.J. Cody grad, which I will be coming back for, of course, but there's a number of other commitments happening in town on those days, so I do think it is a time when we need a deputy mayor who is available because there will be a number of requests, one being Walk a Mile that's mentioned within that agenda package, but I also foresee potentially a couple of more throughout those days. So just looking for a councillor who has some availability who could step into that role. Councillor Iwanicki.
I mean, I raised my hand because I do, but
Great.
I do.
Wonderful. Let me get to that page.
Actually, I should ask a quick question. Is the only thing that's definitely on the calendar as of this second would be the Walk a Mile?
Correct. Although I do anticipate an invitation potentially. The Urgent Care Lions Club golf tournament is that Friday, and there may potentially be an opportunity to attend the dinner portion of it.
Yeah, because the only secondary point to that is I'm signed up for the Red Deer Polytechnic convocation on the Friday as well, so we might have to jigger things around.
Very good. Yeah, if there is another commitment, it would be in the evening, but I will say it'll probably be a bit of an all hands on deck couple of days for all of council. I want to make sure we have someone officially appointed, but we might be going a couple councillors deep on these days with how I foresee those start of summer invites rolling in. So appreciate everyone who can. Councillor Ostindi.
My question was just the idea of appointing a deputy mayor. Often you as mayor just sort of appoint one of us to go to an event or ask one of us. Is the difference here just because of the length of time away and that you're both away? It's not for a single event in this case. Is that how I'm supposed to read it?
That's exactly it. For this case, it's a number of days and both of us are expected to be away. So I just want to ensure we have a definite next person to ask. And then certainly if that person is unavailable, then we'll continue down the list, ensuring that we can fulfill our commitments. But it's quite unusual that both the mayor and the deputy mayor would be unavailable, and it just overlaps for those few days.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Great. Councillor Johannesson.
Just hearing your statement there, something on the Friday evening, if Councillor Iwanicki is busy that evening, that would be something that I could make if you need someone to be, especially if it's golf related, like I'm there, obviously. So yeah, if he's got that, then Friday, I can make that work Friday evening.
That'd be great. Thank
needed.
you.
Yeah. Just let me know.
That formal invite has not come, but I anticipate it's coming, so appreciate that. Councillor Payne.
Just the motion.
Great.
Okay, I move that council appoint Councillor Iwanicki as deputy mayor for the dates of June 4th, 2026 to June 7th, 2026.
Excellent. Anyone else want to arm wrestle for those days? Appreciate your willingness to step forward. With that,
Does he have to do the walk a mile? Because I'll pay to see that a little bit. It's pretty. I did it one year, and it is hard.
He has to.
It is difficult. My feet hurt for weeks.
we're also going to need to send. We're also going to need to send an official photographer so we can all enjoy what happens there without being in attendance.
I think Mr. Waldo is going to get in those shoes as well, so he'll be there in the shoes taking. Yeah.
We're just filling the team. Great. We'll negotiate that a little later, but we do have a motion on the floor to appoint Councillor Iwanicki as the alternate deputy mayor for those days. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is we are looking for an appointment of a council member to the Community Futures Board. Does someone have some availability for that? Let's get a motion on the floor and then we can discuss. Councillor Payne.
Yeah, I can make it work. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. You and I discussed it yesterday. There's some things we've got to work out, but I don't see why I can't make it work.
That'd be wonderful. Would someone like to make that motion with Councillor Payne's? Go ahead.
Do you want me to just read what they have here? Or do you want me to say that he?
Yeah, and put his name in there.
Yeah, okay, cool. I move that council replace Councillor Johannesson on the Sylvan Lake Community Futures Committee and appoint Councillor Jazz Payne as the Town of Sylvan Lake representative.
Wonderful. Council, any discussion or conversation? Councillor Iwanicki.
I'm just curious a little bit of process here, just because from the last few times that we had appointments on moving positions around, generally speaking, it was handled by like a consent agenda item. And I thought it was a little unusual that the only two options really are to replace or not. I asked just because I'm trying to wrap my head around like what exactly happened here, which is why it's being put forward in this fashion. Like if there's any answers anyone has about that.
Councillor Payne?
If I can just answer that, I think if we had had the conversation prior to the agenda being put out, it probably would have become a consent agenda issue because I couldn't make the decision until yesterday. So even though we had talked about it and I had talked to some of the other members of the committee about the commitment and when the commitments are and how things work. So it took me until yesterday to be able to address that, even though Mayor Hansen asked about it a while ago. So I think if I had gotten my act together and figured it out, it probably would have been a consent agenda item.
Yeah. Also note, actually, typically it wouldn't, no different than the appointing the alternate deputy mayor before, although it is nice if we know someone who might be available as it comes forward. We are looking for a replacement on this committee that likely will last the remainder of the next handful of years. They are not looking for turnover on this committee. I believe the last representative was probably there for 8 years, if 10 years, if not more. And it's really due to the confidential nature of the work that they do. Not all of council should be privy to those personal business details. So the hope is really, and thank you, Councillor Payne, for stepping forward, is that you're able to be there for a number of years, if at all possible. Councillor Iwanicki, sure.
Okay, so okay, that's good. So we'll have some continuity, because I know early on, because this was a position that switched back in November, something like that, but they probably hadn't even sat yet.
I don't know that they had, but you're absolutely correct. We did have a challenge when it came to this one. Unfortunately, we appointed a councillor to 2 boards and committees that sat on the same time, so making that committee impossible to fulfill, because we can't be in 2 places as one. So we did make that adjustment quite early in the term, and hoping not to have to do that again. Councillor Bilodeau.
I can speak to that. I was the one that put in the request with TEJ to do a switch, because I had conflicts to be a backup, the alternate on other committees. So in order to switch, it made me available to be that alternate. So I was the one that requested that, but I did not have to step down from that committee, just to be clear.
Appreciate that. Any additional questions or conversation? Great, we've got a motion on the floor. Councillor Payne, appreciate it. All those in favor? And opposed? And I should not say carried unanimously as we do this. It was, but it is very hard to tell that with the screen delay. I'm really looking forward to our IT efficiencies that might help solve that challenge. Next, council will move along to our correspondence and information items. Is there any questions related to those? Seeing none, move along to council requests for information and updates. Council, I have a couple here. One, I wanted to provide a quick council update on the State of the Community event that's coming up next month. Very much looking forward to this. I'll say many other larger centers, this is something that of course happens annually in partnership with their Chamber of Commerce. And it's really a way to update specifically the business community on similar things that we do through the budget open house, but in a way that is not just boards around the room. I'll be giving a full presentation, PowerPoint, and a speech that outlines some of our successes for the last year, really deep dives into some of the projects that we'll be taking on over the next year, some of our strategic planning, and just really a way to get all of the information that we have tried to push out over the last many months and plans going forward in verbally, rather than just sending it tidbits here and there. So hoping that we have great uptake. Please share about it. Please plan to be in attendance. Of course, there'll be lots of questions. There will be that formal portion at the beginning of the event. And also, council, if you have any feedback on items that you'd really like highlighted, please let me know. Now is the time. Working closely with Mr. McIntyre to develop the presentation for that, but something that should be highlighted, please let me know. And then there'll also be that informal side afterwards, I think, with a number of different kind of display boards, opportunities to connect with other organizations and with town departments for those questions afterwards. So hoping that it is the first of many. It's also a presentation, I'll say informally as the mayor, I do many State of Community addresses on a case-by-case basis. You know, I'm lucky that the Rotary invites me in and I tell them a little bit about what's happening, and then another group invites me in. So this is a way to put all of that information together, and it would certainly be customized, but it's a way that we can have that developed and present to other groups if they're really interested for that in-depth town update and ask questions. So appreciate that. There's a couple of cards provided to us in each of your mailboxes if you'd like to share them far and wide with the QR code to sign up. It is free to sign up for businesses, but we do ask for registration just so we know how many chairs to set out. I also just wanted to make a note of an invite that is in your inboxes. I am still looking for somebody to be a +1 to the an event coming up on May 9th. So if your calendars allow for that, please let me know. And finally, I know we also do have a request I just wanted to mention around the Youth Spark Awards. And I wanted to just share how valuable sitting on that selection committee is. If you've ever had the opportunity to do it, it is a large binder of reading, but I don't believe that there is any set meeting date. Typically, you just put that feedback back in through a form or an email or however you're asked to rank them for this year. I will always remember one of my very first years on council. I was lucky to be appointed on that committee, and I was reading them as I was on a flight somewhere, and the guy next to me leans over because I'm tearing up. Like, we have such great youth in our community, and the guy next to me goes, "It's okay, my wife gets nervous flying too." Because he thought that that was the cause of my tears, but really it was because we have such incredible youth in our community. So if you haven't sat on that before, I really encourage you to carve some time out in your schedule. You can do it at your own pace as long as you get it done by the deadline. So that's also in your inbox. Anything else under council information and updates? I know those were a bit out of turn, but I wanted to make sure they weren't forgotten. Next, we will make the motion to go into a closed meeting, but we will take a 10-minute recess prior to doing that. So, Councillor Mearns?
Make a motion the council move to a closed meeting to discuss personnel privacy, and this item shall remain confidential pursuant to Section 21 and the Access to Information Act, SA 2024, CA-1.4, and Section 197.2 of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000 M26.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. We will take a 10-minute recess, and then just in terms of process for our online counselors, I believe we'll likely send you a new Teams link for this next meeting, so look for that over the next 10 minutes. If not, we will communicate differently with you, but we will see you in the Luzelle room shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still on hold, so we'll just give a moment there. Says it's on hold. Councillor Ostendy, when you are there, please just flick on your camera so that we can tell.
I am there.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor Johannesson, do you have a motion to bring us out of close?
Sure. Move that closed session concludes and council reverts back to the regular meeting of council.
Excellent. All those in favor? And opposed? Meeting is, that is passed, carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, everybody, for accommodating the hybrid.
Thank you.